Happenin.
Juice County. Welcome to It's Happenin show Reloaded. I'm Jose Gloria, and this is Dylan Thompson, my good friend. We have a fantabulous, amazing, spectacular show tonight. We have the legend in the making, Diego Sarmiento, joining us here today on It's Happenin Studios 2.0. And I'm really excited because It's Happenin is happening to the fullest.
As always.
As always. Per usual.
Every time.
So I just want to, first of all, check in with you. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah?
It's been a weird news week, obviously. We're here to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it has been. It seems like every day, all sorts of wacky, quacky, quirky, smirky,
othery, wordy
stuff is happening all over the world, and here locally. But I will say that I want to, first of all, shout out Andres Rivera and his son Ezequiel that did a show here.
Oh yeah,
for our art walk. So they were. It was awesome. Like we had over 100 people that came through and checked out our art, checked out the studio. So it was a good time, and Ezequiel, man, he was hustling. Yeah, he was asking everybody for money and calling them out if they were broke too.
There you go.
Like, what do you have? You don't have no money? You broke? I'm like, hey, this guy's a little hustler. Good stuff. Good for him. No, but he's an incredible little artist. So chip off the old block. And looking forward to all sorts of magic from him, and just the ability for this space to be a place for us to have these amazing, good conversations with good folk, but also, opening it up to on every art walk, with the Grand Central Art Center. Of course, shout out to John Spiak and his team for allowing us to do these here things. It was an art walk that first time that I've participated in an art walk in this way, so it was fun.
It's one of the happenings. You have to call it, I think.
Yeah.
Right? It's happening.
It's happenings once a month. And we're actually going to have a great happening coming up because Benjamin Vasquez is going to be our next artist that's going to showcase his next art walk. So
there you go.
Tune in for that. We'll have some more details with that. But
very nice.
Yeah. So, all sorts of stuff happened. Of course, we had an earthquake, it was crazy, right? Because I had like
I got the alarm.
And then like a few seconds later, it was like, and I just looked at, at Yenny. I was like, should we be scared? Should we be scared? Should we leave?
Is it over?
Okay, we're
Zombie
good.
Apocalypse, yeah. What did the alarm say?
Yeah, that's fine. All right, we're good.
Yeah, I didn't even feel it. I just got spooked by the alarm. I was like, oh, and that was it. That was the most shaking I got. I was shook.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was more scared by the alarm than I was for the actual.
Yeah, I thought it was like spam, and I got mad.
Damn you, Amber Alert. Yeah. She's not here. Yeah, no, it's important. The fact that we can get these alarms and right before it happens.
Yes.
I mean,
one of them will be important.
One of them one day
that
will be a lifesaver.
Indeed, keep them coming.
I mean, I finished watching Love on the Spectrum. Oh my God, I love that show. I mean, my brother, folks don't know, has autism. He's almost gonna be 30 this year.
Oh, there you go.
He's a big boy, a big little boy. And he's taller than me, and he has huge hands, and he can beat me up. But hopefully he'll never realize that, or else it's game over for me. But
you better start training,
and our friend of the show, Lou Correa was on the show, and his son was in there. I guess he was Adon, his name.
Interesting.
Great, dude and stuff. But I don't want to give no spoilers out, but y'all should watch. But it was interesting to see.
Was that a point of healing between you and Lou Correa?
It kind of was,
That's crazy.
I felt like, wow, like it humanized this man.
Finally, for you.
He's a good, for all intents and purposes, he's a great dad and a good husband. So,
damn.
Kudos to them. Politically,
this isn't even a bit. Like that's crazy. I would never have thought to hear you say anything like this.
I know.
This is great.
That's
crazy. Wow. You heard it here first, folks.
Time wounds all heals. In the great words of John Lennon. John Lennon sent... John Lennon. Jeff Bezos sent Katy Perry up to outer space, and unfortunately, they brought her back, so that happened. Yeah, she kissed the ground and everything. She's like, I felt so in touch with love and everything. It's like, and immediately just erase all bad things that Amazon and Jeff Bezos have ever done in the world. So
thank goodness.
It's great.
What a service to society.
Yeah, one small step for man, one giant PR campaign for Jeff Bezos.
There you go.
Hey. In not so funny or fun news, a federal judge has says that there's a probable cause that the Trump administration is in criminal contempt of court for not helping facilitate the release and return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So, folks know recently, this Salvadorian man who had been granted protective, stay here in this country was deported. Claimed that people, the government, Trump claims that he's a terrorist. El Salvador's president came to America and claimed as much, that they can't release him. That they, why would we release a terrorist and in our country? So we can't bring him back. But of course, that's all have been as a lie. They've never proven that he is a gang member or MS-13 or committed any kind of a crime that would impede him from being able to continue to stay in this country. So, and in a hot mic, it was revealed that Trump is interested in deporting citizens even to SECOT, which is
basically
crazy.
Outsourcing them to prisons.
Yeah,
in other countries, El Salvador.
You got to build 5 more of these, baby. This is a great thing. We could just deport
it's so much more cost effective.
The deplorables from our country that don't support me to some gulag in El Salvador.
Is he not a businessman though? That's like cutting costs. You got to figure out.
I can't imagine that it's any kind of cheaper to have people housed in El Salvador. He's paying like millions of dollars to hold a few dozen of them. But anyways, it's really tragic. But he just wants them out of sight, out of mind, and it's really a constitutional crisis because the courts, and including the Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, has said you need to return or facilitate the return, and they're just saying like we can't. It's El Salvador doesn't want to bring them release him, so we can't compel.
Sorry, it's kind of like they're each like putting the ball in each other's court, or he does. They are just saying no.
Yeah,
and they're like, sorry, the ball's in their court. We would, but. Sorry, there was an error made and it's too late. It's
oopsie, oopsie diplomacy. All right, well, sorry, we can't do anything. But of course, Andrew Tate, who was charged with all sorts of stuff, including alleged human trafficking and all sorts of stuff, they sent an envoy to bring him back. But no, can't do this to this poor undocumented person who has a wife and a family that's desperately waiting for him. Maryland senator, who, from where this person is from, Kilmar, actually went to El Salvador today, and he was asking to speak with him, and they were claiming that they couldn't facilitate a meeting between Kilmar and him, that they had to. The vice president of El Salvador said as much, but they need to make an appointment and such. So he said, Trump, Vance, Trump administration, if you want to talk to him and find him, then you can set up a meeting. So, but it's it's a constitutional crisis where in one branch, which in our U.S. Constitution we have 3 equal branches. Supreme Court was being ignored by the executive branch, the president, and all of his cronies. So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen and how much and further he's trying to push the envelope and what he can actually do to eliminate the rights of people, not just the documented people, but documented and even citizens. So scary times we're living in.
Oh, it is. And one thing I was thinking about is Trump is really scary right now, especially. And everyone's been saying that, but I feel like there's been a lot of exaggeration and lies as well that undermine the legit criticisms of this guy. So I almost feel like America decided Trump was the right choice, but man, they were wrong because he's so much more overtly right now, infringing on many rights and things like that. So, I just think it's funny how the ebb and flow of the politics go, and they're always lying, basically. So, be careful about these guys.
Yeah, yeah. I just finished reading a book called Fight. The final months of the campaign. Now, I'll have to look it up and bring it up. But anyways, it's just really interesting how Trump. It was a toss up. Like Kamala really could have won the campaign, and Trump was up against it until he kind of changed things up and things happened the way they happened. But it's just surreal how bad it's gotten, and it's gotten extra bad because now all the mistakes that he made early on because he didn't know how things worked, he's not making those mistakes again. It's a well-oiled machine, and they know exactly who they need to talk to and what they need to do in order to go around the law and do whatever it is that they want. So they're just breaking as many things as possible and seeing like who's gonna come and like stop us from this. And it very much seems like it's getting more and more difficult, as they're blitzing the zone as they're calling it. They're just doing as many things as possible, executive orders, and it's really hard to keep track of any one thing, let alone 20 things that this man does in his administration in these a few months that he's been in office.
Yeah, it's been
God help us.
a long time.
Yeah,
it's like
the midterms cannot come fast enough.
Yeah, we're only a few months in, and
I know.
We look forward to a few years here.
But you had an item to talk about.
Oh yeah, I just want to touch on that Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray debate that I think has gotten a lot of attention. I think it's important because like it was held on Joe Rogan. It was supposed to be like an honest discussion about issues, and just watching it, I think if you're an honest person, you have to say that Dave Smith won because Douglas Murray hardly made any honest arguments at all, and it kind of like it'll probably lead into some other stuff we're talking about, but it kind of makes me think, I think other commentators have said this. I think Crystal Ball said something like this, where it's like, I think you just can't make the argument to support Zionism anymore, and you have to resort to attacks on people's character. Because what came out of this debate, it started with a question about who should be discussing things, who should be disseminating information, only experts? And it became like a kind of a circular argument where it's like, are you an expert or are you a comedian? Like, I get the point is if you should stand on the point you make and you can't use it, like your profession as a cop-out. I guess that's the honest point he was making, but he never made the point because he kept saying, Joe, this is the problem. Like he said he's not an expert. So are you an expert or are you a comedian? Because like, are you allowed to? So it became this whole thing about, are you allowed to talk about something? But it never came to the discussion of like, well, do you have to be an expert to be well-informed or to have a well-formed opinion? And does that preclude you? Because like, what is a discussion gonna become if only experts get to discuss things? Anyway, there's a lot to touch on here, and I'm afraid to get into it because it's gonna become a long-winded thing. I know we'll get into more stuff, but the basis of it is like, yeah, I think you basically can't defend Zionism anymore on facts. You have to baselessly attack people and attack their character to win the argument.
Yeah. No, I hadn't watched the whole thing. To be honest, I stopped watching Joe Rogan some time ago after it became a total like bootlicker for Trump and a cuck for Elon Musk. Like, and a lot of folks are just realizing, just crazy how this man went from supporting Bernie Sanders, not, in the last presidential election, to being full on, pro-Trump and stuff. So it's really difficult, to just get through it anymore. But in this particular case, like the thing that we're bringing up specifically is like, well, have you ever been to Gaza? Well, like if you haven't, then you can't speak on it. I was like, well, but then they were showing past clips of Douglas Murray saying like, well, like you people weren't at Nazi Germany, but they've written even better books than folks that
you
were.
You can travel. You cannot time travel.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a bad faith argument, of course. And
argument by visiting somewhere. Like,
if you can't have an opinion on it because you've never been there. It's like, who has been to Gaza? Like, you've been to Gaza, with the IDF, like showing you exactly what you want to see or what they want you to see, not what's actually happening.
Yeah. But it's bad enough to bring that argument up, like, oh, you haven't even been there. But yeah, anyway, I lost my train of thought on that one. Please continue, man. It was going to be good. Just assume that was delicious, poignant material for you.
No, like I said, it's a really deeper conversation, but
Yeah.
yeah, the Rogan sphere and this kind of right wing media is just really taking over and trying to excuse just genocide and claim that any kind of speech against Israel is anti-Semitic, and so it's really difficult to find a like people that can honestly argue about the true merits of both sides to come with like a nuanced understanding about the situation.
Oh, yeah.
But of course Trump tweeted out like, please support like Murray's book, he's great, blah blah blah. So
Yeah, immediately after.
yeah, so like it's hard to take any of these people really seriously when it comes to it, because they're not having a good faith argument or debate even. I saw him saying like he didn't even come to debate me. He was just he hardly believed the things that he was saying.
He hung
just
himself
repeating the talking points that other people have talked about it. So.
Oh, exactly. But yeah, when he was challenged on that "Have you been there" thing, he said, well, no, he kind of backed down slightly, and he said, well, it helps. It would be better to pay them the courtesy of doing it. And then, so he backed away from the point, but then he said, but I think it's weird that you would develop all these opinions about someplace you've never been to. So see how he's not committing to an argument? When he's challenged, he shifts to the goalpost and he says, well, no, I agree. It's you don't have to, but it would help. And it's weird. And when you say it's weird, you're saying, what is the audience supposed to infer from that? Mm-hmm. You're either saying they're bought, you're basically saying you're an opportunist, you're being paid to oppose this. Like, so he's not even committing to a point. He's just throwing out these loose ends. Anyway, yeah, so it's like bad argumentation upon bad argumentation, which frankly, he's good at. It convinced people on his side that he won. There's a fraction of the internet that believes he won that debate, but they're in their echo chamber as well.
Yeah. It's the echo chambers are just really a problem, but that's the whole challenge of it, and I feel very strongly about why we this show and other shows, Hassan or Breaking Points or other folks that are really trying to have real conversations about the issues and break away from this, because frankly the podcasting sphere is just overrun by a lot of right-wing red pillars that that are leading our youth astray, and our or young men, and men in general, and obviously, and it's part of what helped Donald Trump, be able to claim a large percentage of these mostly white men, but just cisgender men that are feeling empowered by this toxic masculinity and outright misogyny, and just like, yeah, Trump, fuck them, like, he's a badass, and these libs are, these soy boys and blah, blah, blah. So, like, we got to fight back against that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I'm really excited, to talk about, this and so many other issues with our guest here tonight.
Woo, yeah.
So, yeah.
Welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and bring on to the show our good friend, Diego Sarmiento. So Diego is born and raised in Santana, is an incoming law student at Harvard Law School and director of the organization Santana Youth Vote, Say Vote for short. He has been involved in local Santana politics since 2020 and helping his dad, Supervisor Vicente Sarmiento, friend of the show, and other progressive elected officials in their efforts. So his organization currently provides 22 youth with paid fellowships to give voter education presentations, and the organization registered 2,500 new voters in 2024. Welcome to the show, Diego.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an awesome space. I was honestly sitting back and enjoying hearing the back and forth. Y'all are like comedians. Y'all are really entertaining. Like I was like, man.
Thank you.
Hopefully I could come back in the audience spot just to sit back and watch. But no, thank y'all for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks, Flattery will get you everywhere.
I know. Yeah,
I'm being honest.
You're so bad.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. We appreciate you, and we really appreciate everything that you've been doing. Of course, I've personally seen you in action since for a few years now. It's like, yeah, like. Do you know Diego Sarmiento, like, Vince's son, like, yeah, and then, talking to you, and, you're just so well composed, so educated and so driven. Like I think that's the biggest quality about that is admirable by yourself. Like whatever you set your mind to, you do, and now you're able to help other young people along the way. So I want to, before we get into all the other stuff. So you and I, we were recently a part of history when we attended the Bernie and AOC rally in LA together. So, and was that your first Bernie rally?
That was my second, actually, because a few weeks before I'd gone to the one in Tucson, Arizona.
Right. You went by yourself?
I went with my friend from UCLA. Me and my friend Javier. We drove all night, no sleep. We just drove. I think it was like 7 hours straight. Just the night before, we just quickly texted each other, "Hey, are you down? Are you down?" And we just went there, and it was beautiful. But this was the my second one, and it was unbelievable, dude.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're also. You do interviews, and your sister Dalia is like studying to pursue journalism, right? So you were kind of like the 1-2 punch over there, interviewing different people.
Oh, yeah?
At that rally, right? So who did you get a chance to interview there?
So we interviewed a few college students who were just there, like with their friends. So just people in the crowd who looked welcoming. We interviewed them. That was cool. We also, in the back, we interviewed a few elected officials. So we interviewed the LA City Council member. I believe her name is Eunices. Eunices, I can't recall her last name, but she's very strong, very progressive, super inspiring. She was great to interview. We also interviewed Congressmember Maxwell Frost, who is he was the first Gen Z Congress member who was there from Florida. And then a few other people like who were just there, just enjoying the event. We just wanted to get their thoughts, and I think that's it. Oh, and then a few UTLA member we interviewed, the teachers union, and a member from the NNU, National Nurses, the nurses union. They were there, so we interviewed someone with them too. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was the largest rally that Bernie's ever had, from all of his, 2 presidential campaigns. And, and it was just so good to be in LA and surrounded by, people of color, like young people, a bunch of union folk, right? Like different folks in solidarity. And you also, did you interview, maybe you didn't interview, but you saw Representative Justin Jones, right, from Tennessee?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. We didn't interview him, but I had a quick conversation with him. Awesome dude.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Super humble and super about it.
What state is he from? He's from
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee. Super cool. I was like, wow, you're like actually talking to me? Like that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got a great vibe from him. Mm. Yeah. So I went to the Bernie AOC rally in Bakersfield the other day, and we'll put up on the screen my picture with me and AOC.
Dude.
Goals, man. So I went to 3 rallies. I went to Vegas, I went to LA, and I went to Bakersfield. So I had gotten a Bernie picture a couple times, but I hadn't gotten the AOC picture, but I got it. I was so happy. She's so awesome.
Future president, maybe?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Chatter.
Hopefully. We're hoping for that. But yeah, so one of the issues that came up recently, because like we said in your bio, you're going to be a future student of Harvard Law, right? So you're also stepping into the influencer and social media kind of sphere and putting out videos, talking about how to pass the SATs, is it?
Is the LSAT? So the LSAT, yeah.
LSAT, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2 things, like one, like first, how are those those videos going with the LSAT? Like people are like commenting that they really enjoy your videos and the way that you teach people how to pass them in a very simple way, right? And not just pass them, but like score very high, because you scored high in order to be able to get into that school. So you're showing people the way, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think for me, it was last year I took the exam. So just for background, like in order to apply to law school, you have to take this thing, kind of like the SAT, just for law schools. Yeah. And I took it last year, and I got a perfect score, and I think I was there was only 100 people in the entire world to get that score.
wow.
So I was like, oh shit, like
Yeah,
this
I was
is crazy.
wondering why, just say you were like, you got a high score. I mean, it's the highest score, you know what I'm saying? It's not just a high score.
Yeah. So you didn't
And
pass
like-
with flying colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nah. So it was crazy, and there was they put out kind of the demographics of who gets the higher scores, and I'm pretty sure I was one of two people in the entire world to be Latino and get that score, because not many Latinos go into law relatively to other groups, and then so that was awesome. I was so happy, and I get admission into like these crazy schools that like I never thought I'd be able to look into. And
You went to Stanford, right?
Stanford, yeah, Stanford accepted me. UCLA, yeah, awesome campus, awesome stuff. But there's like no other Latinos there, like because they accept maybe a few hundred students every year, and
Where?
At Stanford, for example. And I go to the admitted students day, and there's like 4 Latinos there, and it just blew my mind because I was like, I thought. We're trying to be progressive. We're this is 2025. Like we're like trying to be inclusive. And I'm thinking, what's one of the reasons? And this test is a big barrier for Latinos to get into law school, because a lot of times in order to be successful, you have to pay for a tutor, or like you have to know someone who's have a family member who's like been in law to help you like take the test, study for the test. So I'm like, I'm good at this test, and there's not really many Latino tutors who teach this test. So let me try putting out some videos. And yeah, all my audience is basically Latino or people of color. And I really try to teach the test in a way that's relatable, simple, that's trying to democratize this information, because yeah, there's not many, if any, Latinos really talking about this stuff. So
That's interesting. You get the Latino and LSAT. I don't know.
yeah, very niche, but this, yeah.
It's awesome, because you'd think like the conservatives complain about the DEI running rampant on the campuses, but then it's like, is it though? Yeah, so that's an interesting resource. So, like, what's the format of these? Are these like video tutorials, or like what's the learning medium here?
Oh yeah, just simple. Like it started off with just me like on my phone, just making a TikTok, and then started growing from there, posting on YouTube. I upgraded a camera, and just literally just me talking, very like minor edits, just me like sharing the info, walking through practice problems, and yeah, just like. If students want more help, we get on one-to-one calls, we get on group calls, just trying to share as much information about that test in particular, but also just broader academic advice, because I've been blessed to have done well in the academic world, worked really hard in it, so I'm just like, might as well share the advice.
Yeah, that's an amazing resource.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps that it's like in your blood, right? Because of course, your dad, Vicente Sarmiento, he's a lawyer, went to school, right? I remember talking to you, and you were just kind of like before. You're like, I don't know if I want the law school stuff, but I guess it's your destiny. The force was strong in you.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I was blessed with my dad, my mom, and my aunt. My aunt Vicky, who is a civil rights attorney. She inspires me so much. She's probably one of the reasons why I took that step when I was hesitant. But I'm like, all right, it's worth it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And we desperately need more Latinos in the field and stuff. And like you're saying, so transition a little bit, but staying on the Harvard point. So recently, President Trump is beefing hard with your future school, Harvard, because and really pushing them and any other schools, and Columbia and other schools, to eliminate their DEI programs, to track and limit what was anti-Semitic, speech, or individuals that are supporting like terrorists, as they claim, and other things. And he's effectively said that he's going to block $2 billion worth of grants and funds from the federal government to the school. Of course, he's doing this to the press, he's doing this to other entities, right? Through the tariff wars, he's playing this like kind of like bending people to his will, come and make a deal or else. But I just saw something recently that Colombia capitulated and saying like, okay, we'll work it out. But once they did that, they're like, okay, well, and now actually we want to take over your Middle Eastern studies program and we want to do this. So once, Harvard saw that, they're like, well, even if you tell them that you're going to do this, this, and that, they're going to want more and more, to the point that, this is a private institute that's, getting, interrupted from the federal government. So, you're going to go into the school like within, this context. So what are your thoughts on all of this happening, and, and like, and I don't know, the role of student organizing, as you saw, because in UCLA, but now going into Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, there's so much I could go off of that, because also as a UCLA student, when last year, I don't know if y'all remember, but there were the pro-Palestine protests led by a lot of my friends, and there was probably the most violent attack in the entire country happened at UCLA, when these just random outside agitators came in and did crazy stuff. Really
started beating up people.
Yeah, started beating up our students, beating up my classmates. It was a terrifying and terrorizing, time to be at.
And the police did nothing.
Just let them. Like, that night was unbelievable. It was
fucking disgusting.
Yeah, the whole world was talking about UCLA, and it was crazy time. And then now this happens with Harvard. But initially I'm proud of what Harvard did. I think that's a good step of not capitulating to Trump. I think it's the bare minimum. But for me, incoming as a student, I'm honestly pretty afraid. Is Harvard gonna protect its students, or is this gonna change over time? Especially being a student who's been outspoken in my past, do I need to calm things down going in? Do I need to up the code switching, stuff like that? I don't know. That's all what's going on in my head. I'm actually going to visit the school. I'm actually flying out tomorrow for the admitted students week. So I think that's going to be a few of the questions I'm going to ask is wow. Hey, how are we going to protect how are you guys going to protect our students who are just, asking fair questions and, doing what universities are made for, which is discourse and pushing things forward. And so
freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in college campuses. I mean, we don't want to go back to the days of the 60s where, Kent State, right? The government coming in and shooting students, or, just cramping down on protesting and stuff. I mean, there has to be a balance between, of course, folks need to have the right to get their education and not be harassed, by, Jewish, Palestinian, any students, right? But at the same time, these are serious issues that people feel really passionate about, and they should be allowed to, exercise, their First Amendment right, to protest and not have fear for reprisal, like how Mahmoud Khalil or several students. I just heard today that in Cal State Fullerton, and I believe another school, Chapman University, they're canceling visas for foreign students because of. They haven't said exactly why, but it's fair to assume that it's probably because they were involved in some sort of student protest and such. So, it's just surreal that you really can't protest at all Israel without being called anti-Semite or saying that you support a terrorist in this moment. And you're asking fair questions like, man, should I be scared? But you're a citizen, right? You were born here. So imagine the folks that are undocumented or here on, temporary status or a green card, they really got to be mindful in this moment, because you just, you don't want to end up in El Salvador, prison.
Literally, where you're gone forever. It's
literally disappearing.
Low crime rate over there.
Yeah,
because They have big jails. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy, right? Like you're going from one hub of controversy and activism and just on the front lines of the issues of our moment, and now it's
For
like
real.
it's almost like you're destined, to be a part of the movement. Yeah, it's like ni modos, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. But so switching into another topic, so obviously. As I mentioned, you're the director of Santa Ana Youth Vote, Save Vote, that registered a bunch of folks, right? So some of the things that I didn't know that young people can start registering at 16, so that they can pre-register, right? So that once they turn 18, then they are automatically already registered, right? And so what were some of like the takeaways from your experience with yourself and then other young people here in Santa Ana and talking to youth and in high schools and letting them know how important this civic engagement is?
I think, well, one of the kind of the initial motivations for why we even like wanted to do this work and get into it is actually came in 2022 after the 2022 midterm elections. I don't know if y'all remember, but it was kind of like the first cycle where I was like really involved, like trying to help out. And then during COVID, yeah, exactly. And then there was election night, which was kind of iffy, and then there were some results that took a while.
Depressing as heck.
Exactly.
I was like, what's happening? But then things got better.
Exactly. It was like a month or two where it was we were kind of on edge, and in that moment there was a lot of discourse around like young people not stepping up and young people who like almost like blame being put on young people, like, okay, we can't depend on young people, they're not going to show out for us. And some of the numbers were in 2022, if you're 18 to 24-year-old Latino, only 2,164 18 to 24-year-old young Latinos in Santa Ana actually voted, which to me was mind-blowing. Like, that's such a small number, only 2,000 young Latinos voted. It was like a 10% turnout, crazy. And mind you, that year, the homelessness rate at SAOSD was 13%. So you're more likely to experience homelessness if you're a young person in Santa Ana than to actually go out and vote, which is, I mean, when I was like 19 at that time, and I heard that stat, and I was like, that's mind blowing. Like, I got to do something about this. Me and my friends, we got to do something about this. One, even just off like being blamed, because I was in that cohort. I was like, I don't like being
like,
blamed.
How dare you?
Exactly. And then after that, we like applied for some grants. We got rejected like year after year, but then we finally got some support from some people, some foundations, some communities. And then we had that year. Some of the takeaways though were these conversations that we're having right now of like around politics in the community, they are so like rare and lacking with our young people. Like, time after time, we spoke to thousands of students throughout Santa Ana, throughout Anaheim, Orange County, LA County, and like we would do activities with them, like asking them what they would want to see out of their community, like what's maybe not so good, what would you want to see, what improvements do you want to see, and then we would ask them, like, has anyone ever talked to you about this stuff? And like 90% of the time they'd say, no one's ever talked to me about this. Like, I've never imagined what like my neighborhood could look like. Like, we've never sat down and talked about this. Which that was very eye-opening and very sad for me, because I think you guys, were touching on like echo chambers. And I think places like college and like spaces that I'm in could put me in this echo chamber where like, I'm like a political junkie. Like, I live this world, but there's the majority of people just, they're just so busy and swamped by the economy, the world, their family, where it's like, they're not having these conversations. And that's what moves people. So that was probably the biggest takeaway.
So you were awarded with the prestigious Truman Scholarship, right? Truly, because prestigious. I mean, that's what UCLA, that's what the article says. I'm just reading. Diego Sarmiento awarded prestigious Truman Scholarship. So is that scholarship, that's what you're using for the use for Harvard Law?
So, for Harvard Law, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but in order for Save Vote, you receive funding from
A separate foundation.
yeah. What was the foundation?
It was the Donald A. Strauss Foundation. They like fund young college students in California who want to do public service projects. They're a great organization. I think Donald A. Strauss is passed away, but he was a former mayor of actually like Newport Beach, I think, like in like decades ago, and then he passed away. His family like started this for
Okay.
young public servants. So really cool. We have really good people. Really good. We just met the other students who like also got the scholarship like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it's cool group.
And you wrote like the proposal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. How did you find out about it?
It was the scholarship director at UCLA. I forgot if I went up to her, if she reached out to me, but somehow we got in contact. I think I was asking her about like scholarships that I could apply for, and then she was like, "Oh, you should look into this one and the Truman." So she helped me apply for both, and I applied for both like as a sophomore, and I got rejected from both. But then I applied again as a junior, and then I got them. But yeah, there's a lot of. I think with the Truman, it's a really interesting scholarship because it was created once, like presidents, when they like are done with the presidency, some of them choose to like make a library or make like a foundation. And President Truman chose, he's like, I don't want a library. I want a scholarship to fund like people going to college, because he was one of the few presidents who like didn't go to college, and like so he wanted to fund public servants going to college.
Yeah.
So we did that. So it's like a federal program, like by the federal government, and they choose like 1 or 2 people from each state to get that scholarship, and they connect you with a lot of really cool people. I think I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Mayor Michael Tubbs. He's a former Truman Scholar.
Oh wow.
Who's former mayor of San Diego. I forgot Todd Gloria is another one. There's like an attorney general of Arizona, Chris Mays is another one. So yeah, cool networks that they connect us with. But it's a very like establishment like area, like very like you said the word prestigious. It is like you have to act a certain way, and people kind of have like it's almost maybe discouraged to be kind of a little radical and extreme and stuff like that. So
it's kind of formal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
So
Yeah. Probably shouldn't be on the show then.
watch out.
You're like, you're lowering your prestige level by a couple notches here.
I got the scholarship already. So
There you go.
yeah, first student
That's awesome.
first UCLA student in 15 years to receive that. So, wow, like so
Yeah, and
kudos and
awesome.
snap.
I did want to touch on some of the other work you did with like Save Vote, because you do like things to get out the vote, and that includes didn't you do a forum too?
Oh yeah, we did the Youth Canada Forum. That was awesome. That was like yeah, we had like over 100 people show up. We had like 4 press outlets, and it was like moderated by high school students.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
It was awesome. And it was
cool.
Yeah, there was good back and forth with the candidates. And then at the end, we kind of used that as like the final like celebration and goodbye of the fellows, like the high school fellows who we gave the fellowships to. So they got their certificates, they got their stipends, and it was an awesome day. Yeah, it was an awesome.
Yeah, that
awesome
sounds
evening.
It's a challenge to organize those. And
yeah.
I think almost everyone who joined that won their thing. So they showed up, and I don't know how much of the youth came out for them.
You're right. I actually never thought about that, but yeah, everyone who showed up. Oh, except
I think the people's mayor.
Yeah, the people's mayor. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
it fell slightly short, but I was kind of curious. I was like, either they have their they know what the zeitgeist is, and they don't, or the youth showed up for them. But yeah, either way, yeah. And so talk to more about these fellowships briefly. So you have high school students get out the vote in some way. Like, what is that about?
Yeah. So how it works is we try to spread the word, like, hey, we're doing this fellowship program. It's we offered in the fall, we offered $500 paid stipend, and basically what we do is we train them to do voter registration presentations in their classrooms. So what we see is as easy as like registering to vote is. Like it's very easy in California. You could do it at 16 to 17. There's still like the voter registration rate for 18 to 24-year-olds is 50 to 60%, which is like that's like 40% who aren't registered, and like they have like they don't vote just because of that, which is mind blowing because it's so easy. So we think, okay, where is one space where we could efficiently like reach all students, which, and it is high schools, because after that, people think like, oh, everyone, you could just register to vote at the DMV, even if you don't do it yourself. There's a lot of people who don't have licenses, who like don't get driver's license, or who you go to the DMV and they ask you, do you want to register to vote? They're just like, no, like I don't want to spend the time. So it's like, yeah, high schools are a great space where everyone's together, where everyone deserves a nonpartisan education on like, hey, this is how you register to vote. This is why it's important, stuff like that. So yeah, the kids learn like a quick 15-minute voter registration presentation. They learn how to give it. They learn how to run like a voter registration drive at their lunch table. Yeah, they work with us and their teachers. We have a 2-year partnership with Santa Ana Unified School District to like facilitate these presentations and these drives. So the students learn, they have our support, they have their teacher support, to give these presentations and lunch drives. And it's a good like introductory first baby step on like, hey, like this is how I could like make my community's voices heard, make my school's voices heard, make my voice heard. So it's a good introduction in civic life, which I feel like is kind of missing in like young culture and just culture like in America in general. It's a very like individualistic, like just make your money, like be successful yourself, where there's not this like civic focus. So yeah.
Yeah, you were. So this in particular, it was a nonpartisan effort, right? Of just registering voters, at schools, right?
Yeah, completely nonpartisan. Like we don't like care or look like what party you register for, who you vote for. We just like want to see a higher registration rate and higher turnout rate because it is so low in Santa Ana and in Orange County. So
2,500 people, y'all registered?
yeah,
And how
registered and pre-registered. Yeah.
How many people? And how? What time frame?
It was in like 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, no, that's.
And that was, and I think there's really a ton of room for improvement, and like there's something there in using the high schools as a way to just teach people like how to register, and that increases the numbers a ton, especially with like the partnership with the school district. Yeah.
Is there is there an opportunity to continue to do that work, or is that the plan?
The plan is
for the next election for the registration to happen.
Yeah.
Or the pre-registrations?
Another resolution that we passed with the school board is for Santa Ana to recognize 4 weeks out of the school year as high school voter education week. So not just like every 4 years on election year we come and like register, but every year, like every fall on high school voter education week, we come in and, hey, let's teach you how to register to vote. Let's like do the same kind of quick presentation. Every year, because there's juniors and seniors who cycle out like every 2 years. So if we did every 4 years, we'd be missing a lot of young people. So the plan is every fall during those high school voter education weeks to build that power. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, like we had, like within our history class, we'd have like a civic class, to kind of show us a little bit about different things. I mean, people don't really care at that time, right? Like you just,
and that's dependent on having a good teacher who's like willing to even talk. Because it's not part of the curriculum.
Yeah, no, but it's really important, like as the tobacco companies used to say, you got to get them young. Like the younger, get them hooked on voting, and the younger that they are able to get into that practice of it, that then by the time they're of age and into their voting years, then they'll be an important asset for their family and their community. I know personally a lot of people that like will reach out to me and say like, hey, I don't know like about any of these issues and this and that, and I can gear them towards organizations or things that would help them, but also just as youth, many times their parents are undocumented. And so like really they are the voice for their parents and for the needs of their families and their communities, right? So youth play such especially in Santana, I would say, in a community where so many folks are immigrants, undocumented, or not able to vote just yet. Youth can play such a vital role into this. Right.
No, and voting is super important. But it's like the first step, and I think part of like the presentations that the young students give is they break down like local elections and say, hey, like this school board seat was like decided by like 60 votes, and like our graduating class is like hundreds of people, like. And being able to like show kids those numbers that like, hey, this is the power that we have. Like it is in voting, but it's also like in showing young people the power that they have and having that conversation of, like what could be improved in your community? Like, what does it look like now? And like, what would you want it to be? And how do we start making those steps? It's, voting is part of that, but there's so many other ways, especially with a lot of the students we speak to are undocumented and they can't vote. So it's like, it's managing that conversation too. And so it's starting with voting, but expanding that into how could we show you that you have power to like change your community, and like even just imagination, like just imagining something different. That's really, really where the change happens and the power happens. And then also with the fellowships, like getting these students, like even something like the money helps them, because that's like a week's worth of pay for some of their parents. And so that's one. But then the other thing is, in terms of having something in a group of people to help them with resumes, with college applications, which we help them with too, in which a lot of our community is lacking in these opportunities of like civic engagement to write about in a college application or in a scholarship applications. And what we've seen with some of our fellows is they've written about their experience and been able to use that as a step into other opportunities. One of the students just got the like a Congressional Hispanic scholarship, which is like, I guess, really prestigious. I hadn't heard of it, but they told me about it and it was awesome. So we're really proud of some of the students and that we could be like that little step in like writing them a letter of recommendation or showing them how to do X, Y, Z. So really, that's like the best part of the work.
Yeah,
that's
leadership development.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to tie in the Bernie AOC stuff because you were kind of saying, youth has very low turnout. It's hard. It seems boring to go to a city council meeting.
And it is. But
it is. Granted, for the first few ones, you have to get used to it. You have to acclimate. Or even like this example you gave, like an election could be turned by a handful of votes. You'd be surprised how easy your influence, like how easy getting involved, how much influence you can have. So like, do you think this energy for Bernie, for a Occupy style politics or an anti-Trump sentiment, how is this going to work into that? How can youth get involved through that? Or do you think that's going to help?
I think you're kind of asking, like, can this like energy towards Bernie and AOC be sustained with young people? I completely think so, because what I've seen with kind of our organization and what has like really motivated young people is when you are bold and you talk about like big important issues. And I think like politics and going to a city council meeting, like we said, like it could be boring, and it's like there is like that barrier of entry, and it's, in order to take action, we need to like rise above that barrier and like give enough energy to like overcome that inherent barrier. And moderation isn't enough. Like moderate politics and that stuff isn't enough energy, at least from what I've seen, to overcome that barrier of action. Whereas when you're talking about like real important issues and bold issues, like how AOC and Bernie like talk about those things, that gives you enough energy to motivate young people to get over the hump, rather than talking about like tweaks around the edges and stuff like that. That's not going to get you excited to go sit at a boring city council meeting. But when you talk about like cool shit, like I remember when Bernie came to Santa Ana when I was in high school, and all my friends were talking about it. They're like, dude, like we could like not have to apply for like the FAFSA, like we could like college could be free or healthcare, like these big ideas. That's what energizes people. But like complex tweaks around the edges with like a ton of like means testing, like it's like that it puts you to sleep. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the issues like like you were saying, environmental justice or Medicare for all, like, or free, education, affordable education, like, things that really would resonate with you. But also, I mean, Bernie, he's been around for a long time, and but AOC in particular, right? Like, her speech recently, and when Bernie speaking, is like, Alexandria 6 years ago was a bartender. And now she's touring the country, and speaking and inspiring, all sorts of folks. I got a chance to take a youth to the rally in LA, and she was just telling me about how inspired she was that somebody that looks like her, that's a Latina, a woman, could rise up to this place where she can be in Congress. So. Like they see, like if AOC can do it, I can too, right? So, Bernie had his moment, and I see him as passing the baton to AOC, and part of what all of these rallies have been. But of course, in a moment, as you're saying, like where perhaps centrism or moderatism is not really and plain dead, and seeing, if Trump's, going to self-implode, as some of these, moderate Democrats are literally saying, like, that's what they should do. Or like in the case of Chuck Schumer, just, roll over and let, have no sorts of resistance. Like the country is hungry for, people like AOC to, to really speak truth to power and push the envelope, and, and galvanize folks to have a true opposition to what we're seeing as, attacks against immigrant communities, against young people, against Latinos, against, LGBT folks, trans folks, right? So it is a moment where I really see like young people being inspired in a real big way. As I was, with the Bernie movement in 2016, and so on. So what are your thoughts about AOC and like her role in inspiring youth?
There's like no one like AOC. Like there's no one else who I've seen inspire young people like AOC. Like, cause especially like when, like I've been in college, and I'm a political junkie, so I'll talk politics with everyone there. And there's a lot of stuff I talk about. People are like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, that's so niche. I don't know. But AOC, everyone knows AOC. Like almost, at least if you're in that college space, if you're, which is the world that I was in, like in that space, everyone knows AOC. If you're a little bit into politics, AOC. And she inspires people. She's so relatable, so likable, so talks about the issues that really affect young people in a way that no other politician really has tapped into. And I think that the conversation that we were having of like people want like kind of boldness, especially young people, that could also be used, and I think we have seen it not always be used like in a good way, especially like with young men, or just young people in general, and the right, like that boldness could excite people like towards that direction also. Like I think moderation doesn't excite young people, but having like being bold and being determined in what you're saying and being a fighter, that could go both ways, and we've seen it excite young men
on the right,
with like characters like Andrew Tate, or characters like other people who are like bold and extreme and fighter, like they crazy stuff they say, but they believe in it. And I think people I think what I've seen, they just want someone who's like convicted and bold.
Yeah, they want either, if you're on the right, you want someone based, or if you're on the left, you want someone woke.
Yeah,
like it's one or the other. Like you got to be bold on some level. You have to be taking a stand. In other
exactly.
words, right? Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So I guess another part of my question is like, you were talking about how like, I mentioned before, but elections could be turned on a dime, right? But also I find that getting involved in other ways, you mentioned, like there's other ways to get involved. That's just like a gateway into the arena, but the space is huge and you can go around and like one thing I found is like it's surprisingly easy just to, I mean, you have to dedicate time, but you can become part of a local organization and these things matter a lot. Like nobody has time for this shit. So like when you show up, it's incredibly powerful. So just even that, and that's why I'm hoping like, this I think it's really positive. There's a lot of energy for like the kind of rhetoric that Bernie and AOC use, and I want that energy to go everywhere. I want it not just to be funneled into like a federal Democratic electoral thing. It should go there. It should go on the local city council. It should go on activist groups. It should explode. You know what I'm saying?
Mutual aid groups locally, like yes,
Yeah,
yes,
like we had
yes.
with last show with Orange County Rapid
Yes,
Response Network. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm kind of wondering, like, if like you guys were at the rally, like, what's the vibe? What's the energy in the air? What are people saying? What do we do next? Like, were there discussions like that?
What would you say, Jose? What was the energy you?
I talked to, I mean, not in particular young people, although like I just brought up the example of this young woman that was inspired by AOC, but I talked to a person that's like, this is my first Bernie rally and I'm volunteering and my husband is a Republican and he's here and like, so yeah, it's like it does feel like it's a wide net that's being cast, the people that are disillusioned or frustrated with politics in this moment, but I think young people in particular, a lot of the critique, in talking to the critique of the Bernie and AOC movement, it's like, yeah, you're just funneling people into the Democratic machinery, that is not transformative in their politics in any way, and so you're using all this energy into, to getting them to be good, blues, as opposed to like, being, but I think, and what I've seen is that a lot of folks that are already plugged in to like DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, or Working Families Party, or LGBTQ folks, or immigrant rights folks. Like I talked to somebody in Bakersfield, a young woman that was part of the California Immigrant Youth Justice Alliance, I believe, and she was saying like, I'm here because my community was under attack recently. They, the ICE came to Bakersfield, they did raids, and they, swept up a bunch of people, and this is a community that a lot of folks are working in the fields, and so they're fearful and stuff. So yeah, I see young people trying to find a place to belong, right? And so whatever it is that we want to belong, right? And it's like an intrinsic human condition. And some people join religions, and some people join scenes, like musical scenes, right? Or or drug scenes, or whatever. But and some people join political scenes. And so as much as I caucus with the Democrats, I feel myself personally like very independent in my beliefs, or I'm with like the Democratic Socialist kind of mind frame of Bernie and AOC that says like, well, let's dream big. And in Mexico, there's this famous soccer player called Chicharito Hernandez. Mexico's never won a World Cup, probably never will. But, he was, one interview is like, well, like, why do you say that? Why do you believe that you're going to win? Like, you've never won. It's like, and he was like, imagínense cosas chingonas, So he's like, imagine like badass shit.
Yeah.
And so, and actually leads me to my next thing that I was going to bring up to you. Recently, David Hogg is his name.
Oh yeah, David Hogg. Yeah.
He came out. He's a vice chair of the Democratic Party, and he's saying that he wants to funnel $20 million into campaigns where in like solidly blue areas and run primaries of young people or / more progressive people, and push out some of these asleep at the wheel kind of Democrats. So, what are your thoughts on like young people or folks like, David, like going into the Democratic Party, or even yourself, like getting into, the club and trying to push it to the left or highlight or uplift some of the issues that young people care about?
Oh my God, I love this conversation. And there's so much. I think just to finish off the conversation of like young people who are at AOC and Bernie. I think at least I can't speak for like all young people or some crazy like that, but I could speak to like myself, and I think a few other people, probably young people, are like similar to me. Is like we're looking for guidance. Like when we go to these spaces, like we're young. There's so much I don't know. Like there's so much I don't know. A lot of times, like I'm just looking for like, hey, I'm going to this space. Like, can you tell me like how else could I get involved? And I think that's why it's so important for like leaders in these spaces to emphasize like, hey, let's not make it like just funneling to like a federal democratic election or something. Like, let's like show you like, no, like you said, like there's so much impact you could make by joining a local organization. Like, and because like you said, people are so busy. Like if you join, you could be a leader there. Like you could make an impact there. So yeah, I think that's huge. Like a lot of us are looking for guidance. Like, and someone's out there like on the internet telling you what to do. So it's like we're looking for guidance. I just hope that there are leaders who are going to be guiding young people the right way, because there's a lot of people who are going to be guiding us the wrong way too. So
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that with David Hogg. He actually came to Orange County. Oh wow, yeah, you were there, right? I think. Did you meet him? I met him.
You met him.
And my
I saw
dad,
that.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So he was friendly, and he came out of Florida, like the
Parkland shooting.
yeah, the Parkland, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what my thoughts on what he's doing now as vice chair? I mean, I love it, because like you said, it is like being bold, and it is probably a little risky. Like it probably would be like the more seasoned strategist would say, hey, let's use all that money to like just go after Republicans, stuff like that. But it is like, again, kind of dreaming of like something more and like a better party, which I think, which I'm glad he's seeing, is like, hey, like there's something inherently like wrong with the party, that like we got to shake things up. We can't just like do the safe thing of like going after Republicans and use like,
we're not Trump.
Exactly.
Ooh, scary Trump.
It's almost like
pick us or else you get the Trump, you know?
Yeah.
It puts the Democrat blue on the skin or else it gets the orange.
Orange man bad. Yeah, no, we're more than that. And it's almost like the way I view it is like they're using the money, like it's almost like investing in the party, like investing like in the growth of the party and like more challenge, stuff like that. So I love it. And yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because when I think about the Democrats and Republicans, I see the Republicans are more prone to having insurgencies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the best that the Democrats have is probably AOC is a good story for that, because it wasn't that she like revolted from within, but she came from without, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the Democrats, you have like Matt Gaetz and stuff causing shakeups and like ousting their leaders all the time.
And even Trump himself, like at 2016, like I was a kid, but that must have been crazy for him to take over the party.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
moment,
yeah.
like, dude, I can't even imagine.
I mean, to the Republicans' credit, they threw everything at Trump.
And,
they threw a Bush at him. Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
They Marco Rubio, and like all of the establishment goons were trying desperately to, and he just was like,
What they really needed
slapping
was
him around, because he was genuine. Like people, can criticize him for us, but you like know that this man is keeping it real.
Yeah.
And they were just like tired of the like political polished kind of speeches and stuff. But I will say, like, a lot of the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is the Democratic Party has super delegates and the Republicans do not.
I was gonna say,
the people are hoping and wishing that something like what Trump did to the Republican Party could happen in the Democratic side, but it's so difficult because of the super delegates are establishment, folks that would never allow for a progressive uprising to happen.
I never thought about that's true.
It's kind of ironic.
That's why a lot of
it's
hardcore
ironic.
lefties
It's very ironic.
are like,
the parties
we can never reform it.
Like,
it's
the parties
unreformable.
do shift over time. Like if you look at the history of the parties, but I do feel like the Democrats, they're slightly more authoritarian in their organizing because of those rules, those bylaws and things. Because they had the rules in place to squash out Bernie. And because Bernie had the same, Trump and Bernie, they were both populists, right?
The country wanted
Yeah.
like new change populism, and ultimately the country went with where the populism was. I mean, Obama was a populist president, although he was a failure as a progressive once came down to it, or he pretended he was, but he really wasn't.
Populist campaigner. And
It was the
That's
first
per
social
usual.
media campaign, right? Where he really was able to use it. He was a cool president in the same way that when Bill Clinton came out with his glasses and his saxophone, he became the first black president, because he had that swag. But I think it's really important to get past like, this guy's cool, or Brat Summer, Kamala Harris, like no, Kamala was horrible. Like the Democratic strategy of putting out Liz Cheney, to be like, hey, we can get some of these like disillusioned Republicans, as opposed to like leading with a populist economic policy like Medicare for all, like getting big money out of politics, like free education. The Democrats refused to run on that, and so like people wanted change. They didn't like Biden, so it was like, oh well, we're not going to have the same old Kamala, Biden administration. We'll let's try Trump again. Screw it.
And dude, they have to be disciplined this time too. The MAGA crowd, they didn't want crackdowns on free speech at college campuses. They're not falling for it. They see these Harvard, because the main part of these DEI demands, they're fake DEI. They're only enhancing the anti-Semitism aspect and updating the definition to mean like if you critique Israel, it's a violation of civil rights. So that's why they can move in on you, because they're adopting this IHRA definition of anti-Semitism that is very broad. So even Trump's base, I mean, they all lie. That's why I said earlier, they're always lying, because Trump ran as a populist this time, but he's lying. He's just all in on war and suppressing free speech, doing extrajudicial. Dude, we already went over it last show, but it's crazy the amount of bullshit he's doing. Like ultimate bravado on this time around, but it's definitely worse.
Yeah. But anyway. Well, we've had a great conversation with you, Diego. I wish we could continue. I think we're gonna have to bring you back at some point. Maybe bring your dad. The Sarmiento 1-2 punch here. Because we've had him on the show many times, and you're chip off the old block, as we were saying. So definitely we're looking forward to everything that what the future has in store. You've done so much in such a short amount of time that with like a law degree under your belt and some more activism experience and a small army behind you, like who knows, man. Governor Sarmiento, Governor Diego Sarmiento.
Yeah.
So on the real though, is that something that you're considering in the future?
Governor, I honestly.
I mean, not governor, but just running for in any office.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what exact theory of change and path of change I want to go down. Like with my dad being in electoral politics, I do feel like it is almost like a little like weird if I go down the same path. I don't know. I haven't really completely like accepted that thought in my head. You know what I mean? But then also the law, I feel like lawyers are boring, so maybe I don't want to be boring. But I really like and even the nonprofit world, like there's a lot of stuff there. But I like the community, like mutual aid, local organization, like really supporting the community in that way. I do love electoral politics, but maybe I don't know about me running, but groups like Justice Democrats, Working Families Party. I really believe in that world. There's of course not perfect and there's always flaws, but I do think that is an avenue for change. So I think over these next few years that I'm at law school, I'm gonna I'll get you a straight answer with this question.
I'm back.
But
That's some
really,
homework.
I know some homework, but
I see you already getting into the politician shifty kind of thing, the non-answer answer.
Oh my god!
Just kidding. I'm
trying to be honest.
You're made for this. No, I put you on the spot, and it's like asking like, and you're like an adult now, but it's like when you ask high school kids like, what do you want to, or even like not high school, like junior high or elementary, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I don't even know what I want to wear tomorrow, let alone what I want to be when I grow up. Like I want to, I don't know, be rich.
That'd be
hopefully,
nice.
And then I don't love those people like there was like at UCLA I studied political science, and there were people who were like I would ask them, what do you want to do? They're like, oh, I want to be a politician. I'm like, that's kind of a weird goal to have. I don't know.
No, I feel you. Yeah. But those are probably the people that shouldn't be politicians, because they're like, way too ambitious and are lusting for power. And I don't see that in you, which is probably why you are the type of person that could, or some would say should, but no pressure.
No pressure.
But seriously, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope.
Forget AOC. We need to look further into the future.
I mean, we don't need just one AOC. We need hundreds of AOCs all over the country, and school boards, city councils.
That's why I'm happy that people are turning out to this, because I think there's a bunch of little Bernies and AOCs all over that crowd, or whoever wants to pick up that mantle and carry it properly.
I believe
Please.
it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last thing before we go, like you recently were spoken about, or this Santa Ana youth vote at the last city council by our great mayor, Mesqua, illustrious mayor, that said that y'all were basically telling people how to vote and and all these things. So already you're getting criticized, man. Like, like no wonder you don't want to step into this world, man. This is no. But what are your thoughts on like her saying that about y'all? Were y'all telling people how to vote, or what to support?
Mm-hmm. Well, first to make clear, like we never tell people who to vote for, like what party. Like that's not our goal, our mission at all. So yeah, like that, and I invite like any person to like ask us and learn more. And I've spoken with the mayor before about this, like one-to-one, like explaining what we're doing, how we're like, hey, we're nonpartisan, and that's what it made me like a little sad, is because we've had the conversation before, like ensuring that we're not unbiased, and I was really actually happy that we had that conversation before. Like we invited her to our youth candidate forum. We invited her to come meet our kids, because our students look up to her as like the first Latina mayor. Like we have a lot of Latina students who we work with, and they really they look up to her. And we talk about her election, like when we talk about like youth civic engagement, and it's so it was like it honestly made me made me sad, because I thought we had this like mutual understanding of like, hey, you had these concerns, and we and I tried my best to settle them and to like show that what we're doing, we're trying to help. We don't have this like political scheme of let's try to like get kids to go one way or the other. Like no, we saw a problem of young people not turning out to vote, and young people not having enough opportunities to get involved in this work, and we just did our best to change that. I get why people like could think that we could be biased, because like it makes sense that people would have that initial reaction, but especially after a conversation and us like registering students in Anaheim or Garden Grove and LA County, like going to the Sunburst Youth Academy, which has like a handful of Santa Ana students, like hundreds of like LA County students. We I don't know their politics. I can't tell them how to vote. Like so it's
many people probably voted for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like stupidly so, but people can make stupid decisions, and that's what democracy is all about.
Yeah. So, but those programs, they're grant funded, right? So, as a requirement of those grants, you have to be. So, I mean, that should speak for itself. I mean, we all have political views, but like when you take up work, you separate that, and the grant should speak for itself, right?
Yeah. So,
I'm sad that you're sad, but you just know that it's not personal. It's just collateral damage,
Yeah, it happens.
Sorry, you're Sarmiento.
and it got some of our team fired up. So I think that, I guess, look at it that way, like it's more energy for us. Yeah, more energy.
That's right. Yeah. Don't blame the son for the sins of the father. No, but you know that's all's fair in love, war, and politics. Yeah.
It's a good lesson. Yeah, good lesson.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson, tough pill to swallow.
Yes.
But no, it's been really great talking to you and being able to to open up this platform of It's Happening show in our
Dude, this is
studio.
awesome. This is so badass. Like this is such an awesome space, and I can't believe y'all asked me to be on here. Like this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Please.
Thank you. I can't believe you said
you.
yes. I was like, yes.
Yes.
Got 'em.
Thank you.
No, our humble little studio, we're building it up. So next time you come on, we're gonna we're gonna have
I'll have my dad right here. We'll be-
yeah.
Mobbing.
Looking approvingly or disapprovingly, like.
He'll be like, no cursing, Diego.
Come on, buddy. Yeah, let's keep it clean, guys. All right. So, once again, Diego Sarmiento, legend in the making. No pressure, but just a shining star here but one of many that we've come across.
Yes.
Here in Santana. There's just from folks that are going into all sorts of Stanford and Harvard and great schools all over the place, Berkeley and Cornell. Like I've met so many people from SAUSD, young ladies, young men that are going on and really representing Santana in such a positive light, and showing that we're not just cholitos, cholitas, and troublemakers like here. Some of us here, like we got our high socks and we're down ass fools, but no, but we keep it, but we're educated people and that love our cultura, that love our city, and that want to make our parents proud, many of which are immigrants and came to this country for a better life. Like Diego's dad Vince came from Bolivia. My parents, myself, came from another country. We come here to Santana, and we find a community here, and we build the community that we're looking for. So and that's what we've been doing here. With Dylan and all of our escapades through the Occupy movement of 2011, and and here we are, all these years later.
Here we are,
still making
40
magic happen. This is 40. I have to watch that movie, man, because I'm like, yes, I'm 40. I can watch it and really relate to it.
Gone into a club. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
But yes, thank you so much for coming. Didn't you say you're going tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I fly. Like,
Good luck.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it'll be
Thank
an
you.
awesome adventure, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, we got to get him out of here. He's got to get some sleep.
Oh, yeah. We'll hear the whole story next time.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. So once again, thank you so much to our guests here today. Thank you to Andres Rivera for holding it down over there on the camera. Awesome. Yeah, and again, for holding it down at the art walk. Big thanks to, of course, our audio video engineer, Edgar Irie Silva for Iron Lion Media. Yeah, with setting up all this machinery that makes us look good, sound good, smell good, feel good.
I don't know about that. It's getting hot in here. Yeah. Speak for yourself.
And thank Dylan Thompson for being an awesome co-host here on It's Happening show. Thank you for Yenny Silva. Oh, shoot. No.
Uh-oh, that's
dang.
That's a multiverse
I know.
plot that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah. Yenny Diaz, my beautiful wife, for being
Permanent
producer
interim executive producer.
Doing our flyers and helping out and all sorts of stuff. So
and everyone
Yeah.
else. And the people.
And the people that watch this show. So please follow,
Our
share
humble
this video.
listeners.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be back in due time with another exciting interview talking about the issues that you care about here in Orange County and around the world. So from Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us here at It's Happening family, we are signing off.
It's happening.